everybody. How's it going today? I hope you guys are well and that you are ready for the second part of the reading for the CUSP signs. I know it's been much anticipated, so I hope you guys are gonna like it. And we're just gonna continue where we left off in the first video. If you are a CUSP sign and you look at the description or the comments below this video and you cannot find yourself, then you must be included in the first video, because this is a two-part series, kind of. So we were at Aquarius and Pisces, and so this, in my opinion, this CUSP sign is the most intriguing. People who are born around this time, on the cusp between Aquarius and Pisces, are extremely sensitive. As you know, as I have mentioned in the previous video, when it comes to cusp signs, there's always a mixture of the two energies. And so the fusion between the restless, quirky, innovative vibes of Aquarius and the intense intuitiveness of Pisces makes for a very interesting individual. And sensitivity in this case can be a blessing or a curse. In my experience, people who are born around this area or around this time period, rather, are more prone to instability in a spiritual and psychic sense. Pisceans have a tendency to be kind of vulnerable a little bit in and of itself, because they are very empathetic and very just agreeable, and their philosophies go with the flow. So there's a lot of vulnerability there. But the Pisceans who are born closer to Aries, in my experience, are more resistant. They have a more pronounced, more well-defined personality and identity. When it comes to Pisceans who are born close to Aquarius, they tend to have a great sense of humor. This is something that I've observed. And they tend to be very playful, very quirky, but they can be very moody as well. And they sometimes can find it difficult to regulate themselves in a way that makes them productive and happy ultimately. So they have a tendency to get lost. They have a very rich imagination and a mind that's incredibly active and creative and innovative, like I said, because of the proximity of Aquarius. If you are an Aquarius who's born close to the Piscean influence, then that means that you are an Aquarius who has an extremely well-developed sensitivity for humanity. So your interest in serving humankind is a lot stronger, probably, than with other Aquarians, and you have this strong sense of duty and connection with humanity, and you just want to help. So it makes you more empathetic, more tuned into your heart energies. Now let's see what the tarot would like you to know right now. And we have the Six of Swords show up for you. And the Six of Swords is called science. And swords are connected with the air element, as you know. And I believe what this card is suggesting is that people who are born on the Aquarius-Pisces cusp need to be very mindful of the mental structure on which their lives are built. And what I mean by this, they need to have a plan. What I mentioned regarding the Pisces who belong here, their tendency to kind of go off the rails a little bit every now and then, well, that needs to be kept in check. And the way to do it is to utilize Aquarius's energies as much as possible. This ability to compartmentalize, to organize events, things, processes, tendencies into categories, and being able to understand the deep connections between different facets and different aspects of your life, and being able to have a comprehensive life plan for your journey. And the Six of Swords is the healing properties and the healing power of common sense, basically, is that not everything has to be this twisted, thrilling, and complicated story. Your mind is naturally drawn to these intricate and detailed narratives because you're a very creative individual. But not everything in your life has to be like that. I think this is a reminder to consider rational thinking and analytical thinking an asset rather than an enemy, and a little bit of a warning to make sure that your life is being supervised by your common sense, and that you're drawing boundaries where they need to be drawn. All right, moving on to Pisces-Aries. And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac wheel, and Aries is the first one. So it's kind of like this interesting area between death and rebirth. So people who are born on this cusp have a lot of energy. They have a lot more, they are a lot more stubborn and headstrong. And if they are Pisceans, they are a lot more determined and able to keep themselves motivated than the ones closer to Aquarius. So they often are more successful in quote unquote real life. They are a bit more practical and just more tuned into the fire energies of Aries that creates a goal-orientedness that makes them almost invincible sometimes. And it also makes them more action-oriented. So they are less trapped in their own head, their mind, and more inclined to build things, to make things happen, and to make changes. If you are an Aries who's born close to Pisces, then that makes you a little more vulnerable to moodiness, lack of direction in life, and it can make you a little bit self-centered in not the best way. So Aries naturally is very self-centered, not to mean egotistic, but they just have this very strong connection with their identity and who they are. And when the Piscean energies enter into this picture, that can make them a little less confident, but still wanting to get that attention and that praise and have all the achievements. The trick for you, if you are an Aries born close to the cusp of Pisces, is to realize that your real strength lies in your empathy and your imagination, because that's what Pisces can give you, really. It gives you this sense of connection with everything, with the universe. The 12th sign of the zodiac, Pisces, represents the accumulated knowledge of the entire zodiac wheel. And it represents this ubiquitousness of power. And Aries, on the other hand, represents singularity, a oneness. There's just one participant that Aries acknowledges, and it's himself. So when you find a good balance between your personal goals and dreams and desires, and are able to tune into the universe's rhythm. And when you're utilizing your own intuitive powers, you can be very strong and you can make a lot of things happen because you still have the action-oriented approach that Aries represents, but you're also spiritually charged and highly imaginative, being close to Pisces. Let's see what the tarot would like to let you know. And we have the Queen of Cups show up for you. Now, the Queen of Cups represents fertility and the source of all creation. And cups represent emotions, feelings. So here, the emphasis is on the Piscean qualities and features. Pisces has a naturally nurturing side. They are interested in keeping the peace and keeping everyone happy, and they just have this sensitivity for other people. Due to their high intuition, they are able to tune into other people's energies and are able to identify their problems very easily, almost unknowingly, in a subconscious way. So yeah, the Queen of Cups is telling me that the best way for you to move forward right now is to utilize more of those nurturing, caretaking energies that you naturally have in yourself and focus less on you as an individual. Aries is very individualistic, like I said in the beginning, but now is a time to try and take care of other people and to be a little bit of a motherly influence with unconditional love and acceptance and patience. Alright, so the next cusp sign I want to talk about is Aries-Taurus, which is quite the power couple. We have two extremely dedicated, determined, and motivated signs. Both have a tendency to be kind of headstrong and stubborn. And so when you have someone on the cusp of Aries and Taurus, that makes for an incredibly strong-willed individual who is a powerhouse of hopefully positive actions. You have the potential to achieve great things because you have a lot of energy. And Taurus is, if you're an Aries born close to Taurus, that gives you a lot of persistence, which might be lacking in quote-unquote regular Aries people. Aries has incredible drive to start things and to come up with ideas and jump at new opportunities, but they often lack the consistent levels of motivation to go through with their plans. When you're born close to Taurus, that's a given. If you find an idea or a cause or a plan valuable, you'll go to the end of the earth to make it happen. On the other hand, if you're a Taurus born close to Aries, that makes you a little more flexible, a little more animated than many other Taurians, and it makes you focus on actions rather than things. Taurus is an earth sign, and that means that you have a natural connection with physical things and the physical world. And your task or your maybe purpose in life is to learn that there's a true value and meaning in actions and taking action, and you're more wired to go in that direction. So you're probably not a collector. Most Taurus people like to collect things, but it's not typical for the Taurians who are born closer to Aries. You're more capable of existing in the moment, and you're also a little bit less aggressive about your ways. You're still very much set in your ways, as all Taurus people are, but you're more ready to make compromises. However, you're also more volatile. Sometimes you just explode when somebody angers you, and you even surprise yourself. So let's see what the tarot would like to tell you. And we have the Hierophant show up, and that's Taurus right there. So this card is associated with Taurus, so the emphasis right now is on the Taurus energy, and this is a major arcana card too. So it seems like you're going through a phase where you're learning a lot about yourself, and especially about the Taurian aspects of your personality. So it seems like the emphasis is on values and what you consider to be worthy of attention, what sort of knowledge you consider to be worthy. The Hierophant is the representation of the accumulated knowledge and information of generations and generations before you. And since Taurus has this sensitivity for traditions and rules and respecting people who have come before you, you naturally understand and appreciate the fact that people who have come before you have left clues and sometimes entire structures of knowledge, belief systems, books, philosophies, records of knowledge that you can tap into and that you can utilize. So the tarot would like to draw your attention to that side of the problem or the issue, whatever you're dealing with right now, can be solved, or most of it can be resolved via accessing these resources of knowledge that are readily available to you. But I guess the main point that the tarot is trying to make here is to try not to, that it's not making any sense for you to start to reinvent the wheel here, that the solution to your problem already exists, and that it's a typical problem and many people have gone through it before. And right now, humility and receptivity are your best assets, instead of going the individualistic route that would be suggested by Aries and trying to figure it out on your own. You don't have to. The answer already exists. You just need to be ready to accept it. And next up, we have Taurus and Gemini. That's an interesting combination. Taurus is an earth sign. Gemini is an air sign. And when the two of them mix, we have an interesting fusion between down-to-earth practical thinking and the theoreticalness of Gemini. I'm trying to find a good way to express what I mean, but that's basically what I mean, is that Gemini tends to be very analytical, very much living in the head space and being very cerebral about a lot of things. So if there's a problem, their first instinct is to try to approach it with logic and reason, and trying to figure it out that way. Taurus, on the other hand, has less of a flexibility of mind and is more concerned with precedent, if you know what I mean. So, for example, just like in law, when making a decision in court, they always take in consideration the cases that have come before that might have some relevance to what is going on in the courtroom at the time. And so that's the judge's responsibility. So Taurus, in a way, is kind of like the judge, and Gemini is like the lawyer, the attorney, defending or it can also be the prosecutor. So it's more nimble, more animated, trying to wiggle his way out of the rules and the precedents and the tradition, or the more obvious explanations, but still remaining within the framework of the court, still remaining within the framework of the games, the rules of the game. So I'm not sure if I've explained that very well, but what I mean is Taurus is very fixed, very solid energy, and Gemini is much more animated, much more flexible, and when it comes to values, Gemini values mobility the most, and Taurus values convention. So what happens when these two get mixed together? If you're a Taurus close to Gemini, that makes you less morose, less less stuck in your ways, and more ready to listen to the other people's side if there's good arguments and logic involved. So it makes you less attached to convention and tradition. Even though you still respect it, it gives you a hint of flexibility that makes it easier for you to work together with other people. So it makes you more sociable as well. Your communication style is more sensitive, more diplomatic, more well developed. If you're a Gemini close to Taurus, that makes you more of a practical thinker and having more of a no-nonsense attitude. Gemini sometimes tends to have a lackadaisical approach when it comes to truth. And I know that might sound kind of weird, but it just comes from their active mind. They have a mind that goes 100 miles per hour, and they are able to see a problem or an event from multiple sides at once. And that's why I think I used the lawyer prosecutor analogy, because they are kind of like that. They are looking at the truth, or they are looking at the events, and they're trying to find alternative perspectives and solutions all the time. And so that's what their brains are doing naturally, and that's why their connection to reality is kind of loose and malleable. However, if you're born close to Taurus, that flexibility is reduced to an extent, and you use these energies to solve practical problems. So your main focus is to create or make a difference in the physical world with your thinking. So that's what interests you the most, is finding perhaps outside of the box solutions to practical problems. Let's see what the tarot has to say to you now. All right. We have the Fool show up for you. The Fool is a major arcana card, and it's interesting because I picked this card not long after I was talking about outside of the box solutions and creative thinking. So here, the influence of Gemini, I believe, is stronger than Taurus. So right now, in order to make some positive changes in your life, you need to give up a little bit of that slow and steady and conventional thinker attitude that Taurus represents, and be a little more playful, a little more open to new ideas. Use your Gemini traits and your Gemini qualities to have a fresh eye for old problems, and to have the audacity, the courage to try new solutions and to think up perhaps entirely new plans and scenarios, and try to go that way instead of the ways of convention, the familiar solutions. Either way, the Fool is suggesting to me that there's a new chapter starting in your life, and that the best way to jump into it is by following your Gemini nature. Okay, what do we have next? Next up, we have the cusp between Gemini and Cancer. And, well, Gemini and Cancer. Gemini is an air sign. Cancer is a water sign. And when we mix the two, we get someone who's extremely smart, very intellectual, but also highly sensitive. And we have the jumping card already presenting itself. The moon has jumped out at us. And the moon is connected with the sign of Cancer and also the sign of Pisces. So it's underlining the influence of the water element in this combination. So if you're a Gemini born close to Cancer, then it's important that you follow your intuition. If something feels fishy, if something just does not feel right, you're feeling that it's shady, that it's not 100%, don't try to rationalize it. It's more important than ever to listen to your gut feelings, your inner voice, and especially with the moon showing up, it's indicating to me that there's a murky situation where it's unclear who's at fault, who's being honest, who's being misleading. And it's just an overall chaotic situation. And it's kind of like trying to find your way without a flashlight, without GPS, with your phone or a compass or anything. You're lost in a forest and it's completely dark, and the only thing that you can rely on is your instincts. And if you're a Cancer close to Gemini, the same message stands. You're probably one of those Cancers who is more ready to see things from a rational perspective. Many Cancers find it difficult to detach from their personal feelings and from their emotional perspectives, but you often find it that you are capable of looking at the situation from multiple viewpoints. And in this situation, this ability of yours of being able to have a flexible approach is not really helping, because you might be talking yourself out of, or you might be talking yourself into something that is not entirely kosher. So with the moon, there's this message that things are happening in the murkiness of the subconscious and around you that are not clear, that are not straightforward. And it's best for you to really just listen to those Cancer parts of yourself that are able to tune into the emotional reality of you personally and of other people. And that's your best compass in your situation. And finally, I think we have reached the last CUSP sign, which is Cancer, Leo. Now, if you're a Cancer born close to Leo, that makes you a lot more confident than a regular Cancer would be, a lot more expressive, more individualistic, and more courageous in many ways. So you find it easier to be assertive, to stand up for yourself, and you're not being drawn into codependent situations as easily as your fellow Cancers would be. However, there's a catch. Both Cancer and Leo are extremely generous, and they are their focus is on other people. Even with Leo has a tendency to be self-involved and narcissistic, but even then they realize that their best strategy, if they want to be admired, is to try to please other people. So people pleasing can be a little bit of an issue with this CUSP sign, especially if you are a Leo who's born close to Cancer. So you are very imaginative. You're probably a great storyteller and very charismatic, but it's important that you appreciate and acknowledge your own boundaries. Cancer can often be so giving and so caught up in relationships that he will give everything to the other person. And Leo feels like it's his personal responsibility to save the world. So in that regard, it's easy to fall victim to people who perhaps prey upon this energy, who want to take advantage of this. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. But otherwise, if this energy is expressed healthily and you're not trying to please everybody around you, and you're making good use of your energies, this can be a very good combination. And let's see what the tarot has to say to you. And we have a beautiful card for you. The card of Judgment or Rebirth. It's called Aeon in this deck. It's a very, very gorgeous, beautiful, refreshing energy. And it's a major arcana card. So it's telling me right away that you are going through something deeply important at the moment. Something that is important to you, something that has value and meaning to you. And you feel like your being and your life is being transformed. That you're becoming a whole other person. And in this powerfully intense process, you are facing your past and you're trying to come to terms with it and you're trying to integrate it. And in order for this process to be successful, this is a reminder to you to focus on yourself more and to go a little bit against this tendency to want to tend to other people. Now is a crucial time for you to focus on yourself and on your healing. This card has very powerful healing properties. It can deeply transform your life. It can reawaken you and allow you to start over, basically. So it's important that you respect your own self. And if you have to say no to certain things, please have the courage to do so, because this is an opportunity where you're really learning to be yourself again. And it's kind of like you're giving birth to yourself. So you're a fetus again, and you're starting your life all over again, which is a beautiful process. It's like your second life is starting now. And it's important that you protect this new life and try to keep the boundaries that allow it to be a safe process. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you to everybody, and I hope to see you in my next